Welcome, everybody, to another episode here on the Digital Trade Show podcast. Super excited to be with you. I am live here in Columbus, Ohio, recording today and tomorrow at the ADHA annual session. And I am very excited for our next guest, Emily Boge from Iowa. What's
Hi,
up?
Emily Boge from Iowa.
What's up, Emily Boge from Iowa? How are you doing?
I am living the dental hygiene dream. I tell you, I've been here since Monday, and what day is it now? I don't even know what day. It's Friday.
Today's Friday.
And it's been a great show.
So I said just Emily Boge from Iowa because at first I would think general, but you do there's so many layers to what you do. So I just started general.
Yeah, I'm a little hygiene crazy. So I got into hygiene. I was actually in pharmacy school, and I took a career inventory survey, and everything pointed towards dentistry, dental hygiene, and I decided I didn't want to pull teeth, so I might just as well try to save them. And went to dental assisting school, went to dental hygiene school, and practiced for a long, long time, and got into some stuff with instrument design, and I started being a KOL for some companies like Colgate, Ansell, Young. And then I started to do some speaking, decided to go back to school, got a couple extra degrees, and ended up in education. So you never know where you're going to go in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I know you are famous for a couple of things, but one of which is the Boge 513, which is an instrument that you designed. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so I had designed an instrument back in 2012, and it came out, and it was a stainless steel instrument, and when I heard about XP technology, I decided that I had to do something in XP technology because my first instrument was a modified hoe, and so it was primarily for lower anterior teeth and facials and molars. And when I heard about XP, I thought, well, if I could make that similar instrument skinnier, curve it more like the mandible, put a lip on it, and hygienists wouldn't have to worry about how to sharpen it. Because that's the thing with a hoe. It's hard to sharpen a regular instrument, but when you put in the extra complications of a hoe type design, that hoeing motion is really hard to sharpen. And I even love to sharpen instruments. So when I found XP, I switched over in practice, and the last 3 years I practiced only with XP instruments. I pretty much just fell in love with them. I was probably the biggest critic of XP to start with, just because I liked sharpening, so I never really understood why you'd want to have an instrument that you didn't sharpen. The thing with XP is, every time you pick up the instrument, it's the same instrument. It doesn't dull over time, so it doesn't undergo that change in shape from sharpening.
Right.
And so that's what really sold me on the XP. When I got a new XP instrument, it was already skinny. I didn't have to whittle it down. And so I brought an idea to American Eagle, and they kind of thought about it, and so they came back to me and they said, well, we'll make it, but we get to name it. And I said, whatever, as long as you don't call it the Boge Hoe, my mom won't be offended. So they called it the Boge 513, because my joke is always, I'm really tall. If you know me, I'm really tall. And so I always tell people I'm 513 because it sounds less abrasive than 6'1".
Than 6'1", yeah.
So that was always the joke. And I'm amazed how many people have really started using the instrument. And I have hygienists that come up to me at the meetings and they're like, I started with one of your instruments and the next week I bought 10 of them. And it's like, for real? You did? It's like, it's just amazing to me that a hygienist, you don't think, I don't think my ideas are always the greatest ideas, but the return from hygienists across the globe. Like I've gotten a couple letters from Tel Aviv and Germany and different people that like I would have never gotten to meet, being a farm girl from Iowa. Mm-hmm. I'd never gotten to meet those people had I not stepped outside my comfort zone and gotten with American Eagle. So it's been a great process.
Yeah. I'm curious. And first off, I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of people in dental that, like you, just created something because you thought that it would be something that would be easier to perform your day-to-day job. Mm-hmm. It happens so often, but you followed through. So you had the idea and you actually made it happen. Talk a little bit about maybe that first couple months, like when you said, okay, I'm going to make this, or I have the idea for this, and how did you, I guess, motivate yourself, or was it just like, did it just kind of carry you through that process of literally, I have an idea of making it happen? Because a lot of people get ideas, mm-hmm. but they don't always make them happen.
Right.
What was different with you?
So the first time I had an instrument idea, I went to a company and everything happened really rapidly and I wasn't super involved in the process. And I was really happy with what came out, but it wasn't quite exactly what I wanted. So when I did it the second time, I mean, I always tell my students even, if anyone can screw anything up and have to do it again to learn from their own mistakes, it's me. I don't listen to a whole lot of people. I'm kind of stubborn. So when I had the idea, I went right to the company and I said, here's the deal. I have this idea. I want it to be done my way, but I want to work with somebody on it because obviously I don't have the raw materials to mass produce an instrument in my garage. A medical device has to undergo all these, different testing, obviously. The instrumentation people know what they're doing. And so I'd written a couple instrumentation articles, gotten to meet a few different companies through the process of writing some instrument retipping articles. And I just felt good about who I was working with at American Eagle. They were good people. They produced a fantastic product. I had confidence in what I was working with. So I guess that'd probably be my first best advice. Find somebody that I believe in gut feeling and find somebody that you're comfortable with, that you can talk to, that you don't get that weird feeling like, what's going on when I'm not here.
Right.
But the follow through is important and the communication is important. And I went to Missoula and met with them face to face. I met with the engineer. We drew up the design together. He sent me some things to Iowa. I sent them back. And we did a lot of mailing back and forth. And it's not something that happens overnight. I go to grade schools and I talk about inventions and innovations. I got my first college scholarship when I was 13 years old. I invented a fly vacuum with my best friend. And so I understand the process. I went to Invent Iowa. I've just kind of always been that like-minded. But there's a process. You have the idea, and that's really the easy part because then you have to put in all the work of making sure that if you're working with a company, the idea you convey to them is the idea that they produce. Because once they produce it, it's out there.
It's out there, yep.
And so it's all in the planning and the follow through. And then the last thing I would like to mention about the process is having the ability to be involved in the marketing of it was really cool for me. Because that's when you get out there and you actually get to see people look at it and say, wow, that's really cool. And physically seeing your peers respecting something that it was your idea is fantastic. It's just a good thing.
Very rewarding, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And they start using it and they love it and you're like, this is awesome.
It's like, wow, maybe I do have good ideas. Maybe someone should tell my husband that.
Yeah. We listen. We really do.
Right.
Yes,
right.
we do. We do. I love that. Like I said, I think that there's nothing better than a provider knowing that there's a need out there and following it through. And you certainly have done that. And it sounds like inventing is in your blood. So, is there any other ideas going around in that brain of yours, or are you kind of on hold for now because you got so much stuff going on?
I got a few irons in the fire. I have a couple ideas I'd like to talk to some groups about. But right now, my big push is my doctorate. So I started my doctorate about a year ago, just finished my third semester, and I'm taking a couple classes this summer, and I got my dissertation topic nailed down now. So I went on Tuesday, there was a meeting here being held in conjunction with ADHA for the International Federation of Dental Hygiene. And a lot of that meeting was focused on interprofessional education and the creation of a doctorate program for dental hygienists. And I think that meeting really fed into where I'm going with my dissertation. So that's where the majority of my energy, between my two boys and the farm and my husband and family stuff, just working at the college. I'm the dental chair for Hawkeye Community College. Got to put in a plug for my school. Same school I went to be a dental assistant and a dental hygienist. I work full time there, and I have the best faculty in the world, and I will put that out there. A lot of them are here, so they're good people, and I'm lucky to work there. But I feel like I've been in dentistry really for about 19 years, and I feel like I could do dentistry for the next 60 years and never get sick of it.
Yeah.
So I got another good chunk of years that I can get my other ideas out, maybe.
Good. So it's kind of like winning a Super Bowl, towards the end of the career. I'm sure you'll come up with something as you kind of, like you said, go off into the sunset that's amazing. And helps the industry. And one of the things I also know that you're doing is you're certainly doing a lot of educating, like you mentioned, and we talked that you've got a dental hygiene program
Yep.
in Iowa. So talk a little bit about that.
So we have essentially a 3-year program. Students take 6 core prerequisite courses, and then if they have an appropriate GPA, they are admitted into our hygiene program, which is a 2 full-year program. And they graduate with an associate in applied science. And the exciting part is we recently got an articulation agreement set up with our sister school where I'm actually getting my doctorate. And they are going to allow students to use all of their dental hygiene credit, go to school for essentially probably like another full year, and then have a bachelor's degree.
Oh, wow.
Whether they take those classes before they get into dental hygiene while they're on the waiting list, or whether they take them after. However they want to do that, it's pretty flexible. But it's another thing we talked about in one of the seminars here at the ADHA meeting was these different schools that are moving toward the baccalaureate level degree for hygiene. It's a sensitive topic when you talk amongst hygienists because, it's similar to the nursing sequence.
Yep.
Not everybody necessarily wants to hear it, but really moving toward the baccalaureate degree, I think, is in the best interest for our profession. It's just really cool to be able to see your students have that opportunity and have it right there in our same town. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
My hygiene students don't do clinical rotations in the summer, so that's why I'm able to go to some of these meetings, and the assisting students are out on their externships, so I'm able to cruise over here. I was at OSEP a couple weekends ago, and I'll be at RDH under one roof, so I can get out of Iowa, go speak, and come home.
Yeah.
Pretty nice gig.
I love it. So speaking about that, I think, how long have you been coming, or I guess, my first question would be is how long have you been a member of the ADHA?
I've been a member of the ADHA since '01. I was the president of my student class for ADHA, first student affiliate of ADHA at Hawkeye Community College, and I just kind of always stayed in. And when I graduated and got a job, one of my local hygienists said, "Hey, you should come to this meeting," and then it was, "Hey, you should be the secretary and you should be the president." And so I've done so many different things in the political arena. But what I get really excited about is being a delegate at this national level, because the policy we create here is the same policy that's used to support our profession when we go to the table to talk with legislators across the country.
Sure.
So when we go to, for instance, when we go to the table in Des Moines and the policymakers question us about, well, what does your professional association say about silver diamine fluoride? Then we can say, well, actually, this is what they say, and they support the use of it, and this and that and the other thing. And so my master's is in public administration and policy, so I get really excited about that kind of stuff. And this is my 10th time as a delegate. So.
Okay.
So I'll be here through Tuesday, going to the delegate meetings.
Well, and I'm excited that you shared that, because I think I'm sure you remember the first year you were a member of this association. You were a newer hygienist, and for anybody else out there now that's a newer hygienist, and there's a lot going on, and they're trying to figure out what should I belong to, and am I going to get my money's worth and all that stuff. I think it is so apparent, and you've made it clear, and everybody that I've talked with today that's a part of this organization loves it, and it's like until you get here and you realize all the value, it's hard at the beginning, right? Because it's a big place, but there's a lot of great things that you guys do. You're
totally right. And I'm on a lot of social media platforms. The ADHA that we have now is completely different than the ADHA I joined in '01. It's evolved so much, and I see our future as evolving so much. And membership in the ADHA is so important. I am a member of so many different dental groups. I'm a member of ADIA as a dental educator. I'm a member of AADH. I'm a member of IFDH. I'm a member, OSAP, all these different dental groups. But at the end of the day, the American Dental Hygienists Association is the only nonprofit group that is completely there to support hygienists across America. And that's their goal, and that's what they, eat and breathe. And I'm not saying anything against all those other groups I belong to, because obviously I pay my dues, so I must think some good of them. Sure. But I'm a hygienist, and at the end of the day, I might say I'm a student, and I'm a farmer, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an inventor, and I'm all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm a dental hygienist. And when people say, "What do you do?" I'm a dental hygienist. That's it.
Yeah.
So ADHA is fantastic, and the leadership we have coming up is good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's been apparent. I've just, like I said, had the opportunity to speak with just a couple of people so far today, and that's the universal theme. And I think it's exciting because, as you said, there are a lot of different groups out there. Things are evolving. More and more people are connecting on social media, and I think they feel like that they can get a lot of mentorship, which they can as they meet and network with new people. But what they've done here, and you've said it, and certainly it's been a big part of your career, goes a lot deeper than that. So it's exciting to see people like yourself who started 17 years ago giving back and continue to give back.
Yeah, and the other really important thing to remember is you're never going to approve of everything that your association says or does. I'm a very political person, so I know that I'm never going to approve of everything the government decides. But I trust in the fact that it's all for the greater good. And sometimes I think when I read things on social media that talk about, this and that, this is why I'm not a member, because back in 1987, this or that or the other thing happened.
87.
And I was like, first of all, I don't think about things that happened when I was 7 years old. But secondly, things evolve and things change. And knowing that the association really is doing the best they can for us. And they've gone to bat for us on so many occasions that maybe focusing on the good is what I'd really like to tell those people on social media. But my students the same way. I always tell them, we're doing the best we can with what we have. Yeah. So keeping that in mind is so important.
Absolutely. Before we wrap here, can you talk about something in dentistry right now that you're really excited about?
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure there's a lot, but if there's one thing that you could put your finger on.
Well, I'll tell you what, I am really excited about teledentistry. And I tend to get excited about things that I don't know a lot about. And I recently met, have you guys talked to Amber Auger at all?
I think she's going to come by today, actually.
Okay, yes. So Amber's a friend of mine. I spoke at RDH Evolution with her in April. And Amber and I, we've crossed paths many times. But what she's doing in Boston with teledentistry and the use of technology to meet the needs of the patient rather than the patient trying to meet the needs of the provider is phenomenal. I mean, the thought that we can take these devices that don't leave our hands anyway, obviously my cell phone's over there,
sure,
and use them for the greater good of our patient, that's so big. And I went to Nicaragua in December with some friends on a mission trip, and I just keep thinking, if we would have had, I don't know how much about products I can mention on here, but if we would have had mouthwash.
Talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, if we would have had mouthwash, if we would have had, a portable x-ray machine, if we would have had this, if we would have had that, how much better could we have done for those people that we helped? I mean, we did the best we could with what we had, but I was just, when I heard Amber talk at RDH Evolution, my wheels really started spinning on that. And obviously with the improvements in ergonomics, that if I got to say a close second, the improvements in ergonomics in the profession, so maybe I wouldn't have to end up like physically, harming myself the way a lot of people, you talk to these conventions that have been in the profession for 50 years and had to quit practicing before they wanted to quit practicing. That's why I do my best with the students at school. Our students use saddle chairs. Our students use headlamps and magnification and lights and ergonomic gloves. A lot of people forget the ergonomic glove component. So all of the ergonomic stuff that's going on, coupled with all of that teledentistry, I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. And I think, like you said, I think it's another component of these conferences is bringing together these companies, because as you know, as a busy hygienist and everything else that you do, with all this new stuff out there being invented, it's hard to keep track of it. It's hard
sure
to know what's
Every
going on.
time I go, I'm horribly addicted to trade shows, and this is why. I never have come to a trade show in my entire career and not learned at least 3 things. And the amount of information I've learned this week is like, my brain is so full.
Yeah.
For instance, the erythritol, using erythritol in an air polisher rather than glycine and having the antimicrobial benefits. Just learned that at a meeting yesterday. This powder just came out. And I feel like we do our best on the state level to provide that type of education, but you're only going to get that at a national or an international conference.
Absolutely.
It's just, it's so cool. And I can't say enough about how the people who plan these meetings, what a great job they do and what a great job the companies do.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know, the landscape, a lot of people think it's changing, and everybody gets busy. It gets harder and harder to go to the trade shows, and as you know, that's where a lot of these companies highlight this stuff, and so they're trying to find new ways. But certainly, I think with you and your voice out there, and you're very influential to keep that message going. I think it's important, because as you know, the companies need people like you. You've done it, because you worked with the company, so you understand that.
There's nothing that replaces going up to a booth, looking somebody in the eye, and saying, "Hi, I'm Emily Boge. I'm from Iowa. What's new at Dentsply? What's new at American Eagle Instruments? What's new?" There's nothing that replaces that physical contact and being able to physically pick up something that was just designed, just invented, and to reciprocate that. There's nothing better for the company now that I've been on the other side of seeing a dental hygienist pick something up and say, "Well, why didn't you do this with it?" And maybe that product hasn't come out yet. There's nothing that can replace that. Yeah. I saw a product yesterday that's not out yet that a friend of mine had in her bag. She was just carrying it around her bag. She goes, "Boge, what do you think of this?" I'm like, "That is so cool." She's like, "Well, it's not out yet, but what do you think of it?" And I want to tell everybody about it, but there's nothing like that. There's nothing that replaces the trade show. And I know that attendance is down, and I know people are talking about that, but I think it's going to come back. I think the swing is going to come back, because once they start to shrink these meetings and people don't see that benefit anymore, I think it's going to come full circle.
Especially at the speed that things are being created.
Heck yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like, if there's ever a time to not have the medium or the ability to learn, it's now, because it's happening so fast.
Right, and despite all the technology and despite the video and the talk, I really think that physical touch of dental products, we are in such an industry of hands-on, and the artistry and the physical demands of dentistry require that physically picking it up, having it in your hand. Because I didn't know how light an XP scaler was until I picked it up.
Sure.
I didn't know how sharp an XP scaler was.
You can't get that when you look at that online.
You can tell me something's going to be sharper than stainless all day, every day of the week, and I'm not going to believe you, because I'm so stubborn, until I pick it up and get it in the mouth, or get it on a type it on. And the air polishing thing was like that for me yesterday, until I picked that up and actually, I've used an air polisher before, but not in that much of a hands-on setting.
Right.
It was a really cool CE.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Karen Davis did a fantastic job.
I got one question for you before we go. I'm very curious about this answer because of all the cool things you've done in your life. If there was a song that best described Emily Boge, what would it be?
Wow. Mama tried? No. I'm one of 11 kids, so I always said. Let's see. That's a really hard question.
How about a genre of music?
A genre of music? I'm definitely a country girl, but as far as music goes, but I really have been getting into like old 40s, like Sinatra.
Okay.
And big band music from like World War II era. That's why I listen to my office. My students pick on me sometimes, but
that's cool. Sinatra, as you look back, it's very sophisticated, right?
Yeah.
A time when...
I feel like I can study to it. But, I'm gonna have to ponder that question.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll have to
I'll have to get back to you.
You'll have to get back to us. We would love that. Emily, thanks so much. This has been awesome. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And, I think it's so important to bring on people like yourself, a seriously positive influencer in the industry, and you're doing great stuff, and to come on and share, and your voice goes a long way, so I'm sure people will really like listening to this.
Well, anytime. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet your crew here. You guys got a good setup.
Yeah, all right.
Good people.
Have a great week.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, take care.